Marshall was the man who advocated, who spoke for it. All of Indians should learn a bit of Tamil. Nobody is going to help the Indian. How would you feel one of your kind is being killed on the road? There was a move, I remember, where there's Congress part, there was Congress people, because of fervor of Subhash Chandra Bose, they wanted to have a Hindi, but it would have been not practical because Hindi speakers were very, there was no facilities to teach Hindi. I think for good reason, Tamil was the majority language when it came. Dasat Raj, Mr. Likoni was very strong, Mr. Juma Boy, Mr. MPD Nair, because then we didn't have a Tamil in the legislative as 1955, There was not, representatives from Tamil community, these people were in the 1955 when they pushed for it. David Marshall was the man who advocated, who spoke for it. Largely, Limio continued for what David Marshall had done. And PAP policy was bilingualism. It is all in the parliamentary record. If you go, the Indian community had a choice of Hindi, and for practical reason and for realistic reason, Tamil was the majority, and the right decision was made. That Tamil became the language and be the pride. It occupies a national place. Whether it's a currency or whether it's a government, Tamil. And it's all actually in the history of the parliamentary record that we started. Then education was set up. Mr. Juma Boy also, who was then representative from Talakwai, where the Raffles place is, he supported it. I felt that as an Indian representative, I can't run away from the fact that although say I'm from Indian community, and I had heard parents when I was in Sinda were complaining about the standard of Tamil, and I agreed with many of them that we are not in Tamil Nadu, we are in Singapore. We should not try to emulate Tamil Nadu standard. We can never do it, we are not. So we have to have a simple Tamil that even the Bengali, the Gujarati, the other community could understand and follow it. And I think the minister was very, very, very appreciative. It was Admiral Theochi here, who was then the Minister for Education. And I also had mentioned publicly in the media that we should have all of Indians should learn a bit of Tamil. And I'm glad that, there is this development now that, Little India people do speak Tamil, And it's not a difficult language, You don't have to speak, but if you can say thank you to somebody in Tamil, he will appreciate it, Call him Ayya, Anna, he will be happy. So, the small gesture, please don't forget we are a minority community. And as a minority community, we have to do better than the majority community, and which we think we have done so well. It is for the Indian community or the Tamil community in particular to preserve and to strengthen the Tamil language. Because I can see visibly I can see the younger generation not speaking Tamil to their parents, to their siblings. I see this much more prevalent in Malayali community than in Tamil. The Malayali they don't address the father, daddy, or they call Achan, which I don't find in the Tamil community. It's a bit sad, that it's Appa, Amma, Akka, these are things cannot be translated in English language. The feeling is different, but nobody is going to help the Indian if it doesn't help itself. Preserve the language, preserve the culture. Otherwise, we'll become what has happened in South Africa. They've lost the language. They don't speak the language. So it is not a government responsibility alone. The community must preserve. It's an ancient language. And don't just restrict to Tamil. Learn as many languages. I'm little disappointed in certain areas like Little India. I see sign in Japanese but not in Tamil. Even if for tourist purpose. There are enough Tamil tourists from India that we should have this place. And it is on the extra language always asset to you. And in context of Singapore, we Indian community have always been very supportive of the Malay language.
Yeah.
We spoke to each other in Malay language. So there is a place for us. The other thing I find a little disappointment is this. Some Indian families are offering other than Tamil, let's be frank, Chinese or other language. It's good, but it should be a third language rather than second language. I stand, maybe corrected, but this is my feeling, which the leadership may not agree, but I think we should let people offer their mother tongue and only a third language, another language. I can see some trend, Indian boys and girls, both in Hindi community and they're offering Chinese or some Malay. I'm not against it, but I think that where's your culture, heritage and balas if you don't have your language? I did it as a citizen and somebody who frequent, and I felt that there's not enough space for the Indian or foreign workers. They deserve a place, There are many empty buildings that are locked up. Forget not that these are the people who are helping our economy to grow, Our local people are not going to come and do this job. And instead of appreciation of their role, we should be less critical. And I have, been visiting almost weekly basis, literally India. And I didn't have any impression encounter with any of them. Either Indian worker, Bangladeshi worker, Thai worker, Myanmar worker, forget not, our ancestors came in the same position and stayed here. And I stand, of course, the Commission on Inquiry may not have agreed with all mine, but I felt that my duty to come forward, and they called me as a witness. I gave, my view that it's the accident was not caused by that. It was caused because if the police had been a little bit faster, may have not been.
Yeah. What's the public's feedback? Basically, the ride was actually basically triggered by the accident, by the reckless driving of the driver.
Yeah.
Secondly, by the
Delay.
poor reaction of the first responders. They did not know how to handle the scene.
Exactly. You could have just said, no, we are calling doctors to help. So
yes, could have pacified the whole thing, yes.
It never had happened before. But this emotional tie. How would you feel one of your kind is being killed on the road?
And I think the fact was it was aggravated by the behavior of the driver and the conductor.
I don't say that the man involved was free from blame, but nevertheless, people on the day go for a couple of drinks. The driver should be a bit more cautious, After all, they are not so rich, they go on drinking every day. They come there, they have no family, they need some recreational outlet,
He was aggravated by the fact
I felt, although the committee may not, but I felt I've said my piece,
Many people will understand that we are not very happy that driver was not charged for rash act.
I cannot comment because I had not full facts before the case. But the facts may have this thing, but there's something the authority should have thoroughly examined and then do it. I'm in no position to say because, as a legally trained person, I want to look at the evidence and decide on that. First of all, you must have the cultural heritage to understand yourself. Whether you are from Chinese community, Malay community, Indian community, or You have to know your heritage, who you are. And two major cultural position in the world is Chinese and Indian. You can't run away. By sheer size of the population, we occupy, and both have been neighboring countries. There has been a lot of intersection with this thing, Indian and so the Indian civility goes back to thousands of years ago, from Dravidian culture to Aryan culture in India. And I think all of us, even the Malay community, should be proud of its cultural values. One example I feel a little disturbed, the less use of Malay among the Malays themselves, the less use of Tamil among the Tamil. Whereas not in case of Mandarin is a good sign, So these are the things that we have to take interest,
Do you think Malay as a national language can bridge the growing rift among the races
I
now?
have been asked to write an article which I have contributed to the Bicentennial. And I have mentioned that the Malay language doesn't get the place it deserves as a national language. All of us must speak some Malay. It's not a difficult language. And it is the only country in the world where the national language is least used. Is in name only. I think we have to have a pride in our national language. I say Salamat Pagi, Salam. What is wrong with it? Good morning, why? Salam. Salam is big. So we should give more leeway, and I have spoken in Parliament as well. I'm in favor of using Malay as a third compulsory language if need be, of a lower standard. Please don't forget we are surrounded by Malay neighbors, Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, And I always find it very pleasant experience. Recently when I was in Bali, I spoke to them in Malay, which is close to Bahasa. They were very happy. Where are you from, sir? And they thought I was in Malaysia. I said it was Singapore. So I think I feel that when I was young, there was a institution called Dewan Bahasa dan Pustaka. It is no longer, We should have a language council where we could encourage, the Malay, And Malay has a rich heritage from Arabic, Sanskrit, Tamil, Hindi, It's not a difficult language, and Romanized, When Lee Kuan Yew returned with the Merdeka mission with 1957, I think, 56 or 57, from London, their constitutional talk, Lee Kuan Yew spoke in Malay, and I was there, I heard him speak. And the standard of Malay and the way he spoke, I was so, appreciative that he could have spoken in English, could have in Hokkien or Chinese, but he chose to speak in Malay. That was the first lesson you learn from politics. And forget not, in 1950s, everybody spoke Malay. English was very not spoken. Very few spoke English. The language between Indian and Malay and Bahasa. I have been speaking for many, many years. We don't have a central Indian body. You're a Tamil, you're a Telugu, you're a Hindi. We don't have. We must first establish that order first. Then we could ask a minister to be advisor, which would be good. Of course, we have Indian minister whom we can approach, but that is not formalized. You see, I remember in early days, the PAP had a Malay bureau, they were headed by Osman Wokan. So it's a good point to look at it, but first of all, we have to get together two things in order. The expatriate Indian and the local Indian must mix together. There's a bit of problem now because the expat Indian do not mix that socially. other than temple, they visit the temple. And they are a cream, they can help us, you know. And we have an outstanding minister, judges, civil servant from the Indian community. And by Indian community, I mean greater India, you know, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh. Why can't we have a central body that can look to some of our problems? You know?